Hey, welcome to your first life group for Take a Step. I'm really glad that you came tonight. I don't know who's sitting next to you, but I'm glad that you're all taking the time to do this. If you were in church this weekend, you know that we were talking about 4 different ways that people connect to God. And that the way we are wired by God, God gives us a way that we can connect to Him. Like, it gives us a way that we can experience Him, gives Him a way that we can enjoy Him. Tonight, you're going to take a look at 4 different ways that people connect to God. We'll go into more depth than we were able to go on Sunday morning, and you'll get the opportunity to hear from different people in our church and the different ways that they connect. We'll hear from Sarah, one of our teens, and how she just comes alive at Velocity Camp. We'll hear from Terry, who will tell us about what it means to connect to God through his mind and how that influences his understanding of who God is. So here we are right now, and do you like the backdrop? I'm here. This is not my study. This is Associate Pastor Dave Chattel's study, and we had to do this shot in here because his study is so much cooler than my study. I mean, look at all these books. What's amazing about Dave's study and about Dave's books, you might not be able to catch this on the film, but if I remove a book, he has more books. And he's got commentaries on the Gospel of Mark. He's got psychology books. He's got spirituality books. He's got theology books. The Dictionary for Theological Interpretation of the Bible. The Dictionary of New Testament Background. And it just goes on and on and on. You can't even see, there's another bookshelf back there full of books. And if we go into the hall, there's another bookshelf full of books. Now let me ask you this question. As you look at this, what goes on inside you? Are you a person who sees all this and you're like, it just gives you like hives, like you just want to run away, like that is not me. It just is scary. Other people, you maybe look at this and you're like, oh, if I could just have a week going through those shells and reading through that would be awesome. And see, if you think about that, if you reflect on that, you get a little insight into how God has wired you. If this scares you, then maybe the way you connect is not through your mind. If this fires you up, if you think, oh, I would love to have all those books and to go through those books and to just pull a little bit of knowledge from them, then maybe you're a person who connects through your mind. The first person we're going to listen to tonight is Terry. Terry's been a member of our church for a while, and Terry's been a Christian since 1976, and he's going to talk to us about how he connects to God and why connecting to God through his mind is so important to him. Let's take a listen.
My friends at work have been bothering me a lot about faith, and they're concerned about it. And of course I always made fun of them. Don't you want to go to heaven with us? I'd say, no, I want to be in hell with all my friends. So now I get to take the other side of it. But they gave me a book on biblical prophecy, and I could see, hey, this stuff is true. And so one night at home in 1976, September, I said the sinner's prayer, and I went and told everybody about it, and then of course they bought me a Bible. And then I drove everybody bonkers, because I had all these questions about the Bible. So I'd go to church and I'd find a nice older couple. I'd say, what does this mean? What does that mean? And they'd go and look it up for me, and they said, you know, you ought to get a commentary. so you could just not depend on us to go home and read the commentary and bring it back to you. So I mean, I was very curious. I have to know, I've always been very curious, and I have to know all the answers, how things work. Yeah, that goes back to being a kid when I would take things apart to see how they work. The problem is I could never get them back together, so they don't work anymore. But it's just the curiosity I always had about, I gotta know the answers. I gotta make sense out of this. It's gotta make sense. It's gotta be logical.
I love Terry's story about coming to God and asking question after question after question after question. I see that all the time as a pastor when people start to know who Jesus Christ is for the first time, start to follow Jesus Christ for the first time. There are people who just attack it. They want to read every book. They want to know every scripture. Other people, not so much. They come at it and they want to be at every worship service. They want to be at every potluck. They connect more through their emotions. Terry said, for him, it has to be illogical. That was his entryway. Now we're going to hear from Jen. Jen's our worship leader, and she's going to give us a beautiful picture of connecting to God emotionally and what it looks like when we connect to God emotionally.
When I think about my children and how, I know they're a little bit older now, but when they come to me for hugs, like when I see one of my children coming at me, making eye contact with me and hug me, there is like no better feeling in the world to me than that. And I picture God, when I come to Him with my singing and stuff like that, I picture Him loving that. And to me, worship isn't always about what I get and what I feel when I worship. It's part of what I can give back to God. And even if I can give Him a little slice of that feeling, then that kind of makes me draw closer to God in that way. Just thinking about it as I'm kind of giving back to Him a little bit.
Jen's picture of worship right there is just beautiful. That we come to God and we just give Him back. We just say thank you. We hug God, as she said. Some people come to God through their mind, as Terry talked to us about. Jen talked to us about coming to God through our emotions, through our hearts. For other people, coming to God is about action. It's about doing. They've been wired for mission. They've been wired to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We're all called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. But for these people, this is their connection. This is how they come to God. We're going to hear now from Dan and Brenda. And Dan and Brenda are a couple in our church and have only been a part of our church for a very short time. But shortly after coming to church, their question was, what can we do? How can we get involved? And from that simple beginning, a ministry started. So let's take a look and listen to Dan and Brenda's story. I'm gonna keep it.
Did this start because of unemployment, or did this start because of demand, or how did this really start?
Well, you were unemployed at the time. I remember that when we were first talking. That was part of it. It's like, I'm unemployed. I got to do something. I think you can start with that.
Well, it was also the, that sermon he did on community or whatever, where he was talking about that, and that planted a seed, and then this opportunity came up, and then.
And then I saw that vision on the stage, but I don't know if I want to talk about that because that's going to happen this Christmas. So.
You can talk about it. We can edit it out if you want. What's the vision on the stage?
Well, yeah.
There's 400 toys. You were talking about something, and I can't remember exactly what you were talking about. And all of a sudden, I like zoned out.
Wait. Pause that. Does that really happen? What? People zoning out during my messages. Yeah. About a lot? Yeah. Huh. What's the vision on the stage?
Well, yeah.
There's 400 toys. You were talking about something, and I can't remember exactly what you were talking about. And all of a sudden, I like zoned out and saw this vision of 400 toys wrapped up on the stage around Christmas time for our kids. And we're going to be able to make that happen this year.
Yeah, through this company, they allow you to get Mattel toys, about that many toys a year for free. Well, not free for the small amount, but and it's just like weird how you get a vision and you start doing something and it just develops into that.
So what's beautiful about that is you were listening to a sermon and you zoned out. And then God started speaking.
You got cut off.
People, they start thinking of, who can I help? I got this other person that really needs the stuff. Can I bring them? Yes, bring them, of course. They come. Can I take whatever I want? Yes, take whatever you want. And they're like, oh my God, my son's going to love this. And it's like they start thinking of other people. I think that's where you see it the most. Like even down when we're doing stuff in Detroit, it's like she says, they got 2 cars pull up and all of a sudden 15 kids with their parents come piling out of these cars and take stuff. You think they'd have cleaned it up, but the mothers are like, just take what you need. There's other kids that are coming. They're thinking of other people. I think that's the most powerful thing right there.
Connecting through our mind, through our heart, and then through our hands and feet through mission. There's a fourth way, And the fourth way is a little bit harder to explain because sometimes it's called the mystical way, which, freaks people out. What are you talking about, the mystical way? But it's a way of contemplating who God is. It's a way of just being open to all the things that God is. The gift of the mystical people is that they help us to see God in all things. We often connect to God this way on retreats or on vacations, or we're taking walks through the woods. We're going to listen to one of the teens from our church, Sarah, and Sarah's going to talk to us about how she connects to God at summer camp. And then we're also going to hear from Jen again as she talks about how she connects to God through nature.
When I feel closest to God, I would have to say at Velocity, because you don't have any distractions from people at school, the technology. You're just there focusing, learning, and worshiping all week. And you get that one-on-one time. Like you can be worshiping for songs, but then talking with leaders, but then you could also just sit by yourself and just talk to Him. And that whole week is like my favorite week of the year. I absolutely love it.
Through nature, there's just, I don't know, in my journey in the last few years, I've really come to think about how the beauty that I see in nature is really God's gift to me. And so when I see a beautiful sunset, the things that capture me and make me just stop, like seeing the moon on a pretty night and the smell of flowers, walking on the beach, stuff like that. It's more than just prettiness to me now. I really sense God's majesty and His power and His love for me when I see those things.
Sarah reminds us of the importance of summer camp for our teens. Jen talks to us about seeing God in nature and seeing God in beauty. As one of those mystical people, that's my main way of connecting with God. This is one of my favorite places. This is Mayberry State Park. As you take a look, it's just beautiful. This is a place I come to connect. This is a place I come I run through these woods, and that's where a lot of my messages get done. The ideas come as I'm just running and praying and listening to God. A lot of times I just hike through these woods, up and down the hills, and God speaks to me in ways that are just beautiful. And it's ways I can't get anywhere else because I need the quiet, I need the stillness, I need the beauty of God and God's creation. There's one time I was here at Mayberry and I wasn't working on a message. I was praying, but it was really not. It was kind of one of those I'm mad at the world prayers. I was not just a bad day, it was a bad time in my life. But I made a deal at that time that I'm not going to give up praying and I'm not going to give up my prayer walk. So things were bad, so I'm going to pray every day. I'm going to go to Mayberry every day and just make one loop just so I can stick with it. But this particular day, I was just mad at the world. And basically, the truth of the matter is I was feeling sorry for myself. I just thought, my life was the worst life going, and how could God be so mean to me? And how could God do that to me? It was all about me, 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 me. So I started out, and where I park is a mile and a half from where we're sitting right here. And as I made my mile and a half walk to here, I was trouncing through the woods. I wasn't hiking. If there was any wildlife, it was scared away. I often see deer in these woods. I didn't see anything that day. But I came out right to this point right here. And I remember looking out at the water and just fuming. And then I looked down and I looked into the water and there were just two fish that I could see perfectly. And as I look down right now to tell you this story, there's a fish right there. But Jen talked about, you see a sunset, that's God, He's smiling at you. Those fish was God smiling at me. Those fish were God giving me a story. And the story was simply this. I looked at those fish and what I heard God saying to me was really simple. Look at the fish. They have everything they need. They're completely cared for. You're completely cared for. They're completely surrounded in my love. That water holds everything that they need. I've given you everything you need. I have surrounded you in my love. And I went from having a bad day, a crummy day, to pouncing through these woods to walking out and really being able to pray and really being able to hear from God. As you get now into your groups and you talk about how you connect to God, that's what I want you to reflect on. We've looked at 4 ways. We've talked about connecting through your mind, connecting through your emotions or your heart, or your hands and feet through service. And then this 4th way, this mystical way, the hardest one to explain, but it's just opening up our minds, opening up our ideas to see God in all things. So I hope you enjoy your time tonight. I hope you enjoy the discussion as you reflect on how God speaks to you.